If you like store-bought Lofthouse cookies, you're gonna love my homemade version. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Hey, you're watching Preppy Kitchen, where I, John Cannell, teach you how to make delicious homemade dishes to share with your family and friends. These cookies will be ready before you know it, so let's get started. First off, we're measuring out 2 cups of flour, that's 270 grams. For leavening, I'm adding a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda and 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. 1/2 teaspoon of salt, and if you're using a fine grained salt, use less. 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. I'm doing an optional sift. You never know when there's like some weird nonsense in the flour or whatever other ingredient, so it's always a good idea to sift. Grab a whisk. Whisk it up. Now we're grabbing that stand mixer. You could always just use an electric mixer for this recipe, or even do it by hand if you're very ambitious. Into the bowl of my stand mixer with a paddle attachment, I'm adding 1/2 cup of butter, that's 113 grams. Should be room temperature and unsalted, although if you're using salted butter, just remove a 1/4 teaspoon of salt from your recipe. I'm gonna give this a really quick cream and then add the sugar. 1 cup or 200 grams of granulated sugar. Mix that up until it's light and fluffy, and don't be afraid to scrape the bowl down. Whenever you're mixing less than 1 full cup of butter in a stand mixer, you really have to scrape it down because it kind of just presses it against the wall of your bowl. Once your butter's all mixed up, we're gonna add in 1 large room temperature egg, 1.5 teaspoons of a nice vanilla, and a 1/4 teaspoon of almond extract. This is optional, but it really gives that cookie a little bit of extra flavor that I love. These cookies are gonna be so soft and melt in your mouth, thanks in part to sour cream. This gives them just a really wonderful cakey texture that makes them like even better than a regular sugar cookie. Okay, I'm measuring out 1/4 cup of sour cream, and it should be room temperature-ish, not ice cold. And we're gonna mix this up until it is nice and homogeneous. We want it to be totally mixed in with no pockets of sour cream here or there. Lofthouse cookies are something you can get at the supermarket, but they are so much better homemade. You're gonna fall in love with these cookies. Mix that sour cream in. We're gonna add this flour mixture in right now, and do not overmix it. In fact, I would say mix until almost combined, and I'm gonna finish it off with my spatula so I can have it just perfectly mixed. So my batter is totally mixed in, and as you can see, it's fairly soft. We're gonna wanna firm this up by chilling it before we cut it out so they look nice and pretty. Before that, we're gonna give it a head start with a quick roll. All right, we're gonna transfer the dough out onto a sheet of either parchment paper or plastic. Put another piece of plastic or paper on top, and just flatten it out into a disc. This is gonna chill for about an hour, and if you want, you can actually give it a head start with a little bit of a roll. Pop this into the fridge, it'll firm up pretty quick. After some much needed chill time, I'm gonna flour the surface of my counter. I'm using a pastry mat today, it just makes cleanup really easy. I'm gonna add a little bit more flour to the top and roll this out to 1/4 inch thick. That's super easy if you're using a roller with bumpers like this. I bought it on a lark, and I've actually grown to love it. Okay, I'm gonna use a 2.5 inch circular cutter to get some nice cookies out of this. You can make them a little bit smaller or bigger, it's totally up to you. Transfer the cookies to your parchment paper lined baking sheet. Cut all your cookies out, and then you can just re-roll the scraps and cut more, or save the dough for later in your freezer. Into the oven, 375 for 8 to 9 minutes, or until the bottom of your cookies are just starting to turn golden. My cookies are out of the oven and cooling. In the meantime, we're gonna make an easy buttercream frosting for the top. Add 1/2 cup or 113 grams of unsalted butter into your mixer. We're gonna cream it up first. If you wanna add a little pinch of salt, that's totally up to you. As soon as it's creamed up, we're gonna add 2 cups of powdered sugar, about 240 grams. We're gonna mix this up on low, and while that's going, we can drizzle in about 2 tablespoons of cream or milk, along with 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Once your buttercream comes together, it's ready to enjoy, except we're gonna color it pink. Today I'm using pink food coloring. You can use anything you'd like, even raspberry juice would give you the same color. So funny, because on the inside it's beautiful and pink. On the outside it's completely white. Scrape that bowl down. Transfer it to a piping bag. You could just smear buttercream on top, but for a really neat look, I'm using a large round tip. It's an 809. Pipe that buttercream directly onto the cookie. Leave a little border of white showing. And you can start at the edge and move in. And if you want a really clean look, use a knife just to smooth the top off. Finish off with a dash of sprinkles and repeat for the remaining cookies. If you like this video, check out my cookie playlist. That tastes like a celebration. See you in the next video.